How about this? Is the sound back on? This is what happens when you mess with settings. Okay, I'll wait for confirmation that my sound is on. And Leslie can laugh at me because tech troubles seem to be contagious. Well, all right, cool. Loud and clear. So we're back. So I will go over everything that I just did in the first 5 minutes. Excellent. Hi, Mom. Good morning. All right, so to recap, welcome to this live stream. I'll be wrapping up 8 reads from the last couple weeks. If you're new here, Margaret Pennard, historical fiction and fantasy writer. I've got some great books from People April and Running into May. And I was going to go through the current reads first. So speed around. Consider the Lilies is a 1960s classic by a Scottish author about the clearances. So I'm visiting that for some good inspiration because I'm researching that for the current work in progress. People April Leftover, that is going very slowly because it's little snippets about culinary artisans preserving traditions. And the first one was about the potato, so that was pretty apt. I went to the farmer's market yesterday and got an heirloom potato variety, among other things. Bunyan and Henry just came out from my friend Mark Cecil. It's a historical fantasy taking place in an imagined America in about 1870s, 80s, who knows? But very interesting, fantastical guys with this protagonist who's at a crossroads in his life. And then the Libro.fm book is on identity and belonging. It's called Nowhere Exactly by M.G. Basanji. And I'm very excited. That is a Canadian author who's talking about his identity in Canada as a writer and artist. And he was born in East Africa. His ancestral roots are from northwestern India and Gujarat. And so he is seated very perfectly to observe the conflicting demands and rich resources to draw on for multiple identities in his art. And he's just gone through a chapter talking about international festivals and how the Canadian mainstream is reaching out to American, British, and Canadian authors for international festival time. But like, there's this whole vibrant immigrant community that is Canadian that is worth plumbing, and there's like an interesting push and pull there. So very interesting book. And the reason I bring up the Canadian lit is because I'm hoping to meet with a fellow Canadian fellow booktuber who's Canadian. And so we will hopefully hit up some bookstores and get a bite to eat after the stream. Okay, after repeating myself for 5 minutes, I think I'm back on track. Thank you. Thank you. And Leslie says, my fault. Okay, well, because it's Cinco de Mayo, I thought I would ask this question of the day. What is one Latina book you're excited about this year? And I will revisit all the answers and share my answer at the end of the stream. So I'll leave that up for a little bit. Okay, so we've gotten through the current reads. I can put that away. And we'll go backwards in time. So hello, everybody in the chat. Shelly, Leslie, Mom, good morning. Backwards. So I have gone over this as a slow read as well. This is a book I picked up in a local shop. It's from 2022. It's called Very Good Salads. It actually works for the Asian Readathon because the two co-authors, Shuki Rosenbaum and Louisa Allen. Shuki is Iraqi Jewish living in Australia. These are two people who opened up a falafel restaurant and sort of expanded into really fresh vegetarian salads, often vegan. So I thought this would be a great idea, especially to use seasonal produce. And while some of these are not going to work for me because they use peppers and I can't use peppers, and some of them seem to have a few more steps than I would like, such as like making the sauce with preserved lemons and then incorporating that into like cooking a salad. So that's like 4 steps. Maybe a third to a half of these are sounding like they will fit with my regime and my habits. And so that's very exciting because they look very healthy, they look very seasonal, and I'm excited. They look very tasty and colorful. I like colorful food, so that's a big plus. So that was the latest book I read. And I don't know if you count cookbooks as reading, but I definitely went through and read all the recipes. So, you know, I count that as reading. And now we're going to start on the historicals. So the first one, going backwards, is by Anne Perry. You may have heard of this author. She's super famous. She's written like upwards of 50 books in a few different series. She just passed away, I think, 6 months ago. Amanda told me, the bookstore owner who I went to recently. So no more William Monk books. I guess series is finished, so I'll have to go through and like read all the ones in between that I missed. But this one was called Blood on the Water, the William Monk novel. William Monk, the series is about very exciting beginning. It's a policeman in 1850s England, London, England, who wakes up and has amnesia. So he can remember certain things sort of tactily, but he has no memory of his history. And he has to guess at who he knows and doesn't. And like this case that he's on, because he doesn't want to give away his amnesia. So it's a very exciting beginning. And then we meet different characters and whatnot. This is like the, I don't know, 20th in the series, where he's part of the river police, the Thames River. And this crime happens on the water and he investigates. Sort of. So very exciting, great on the detail, great on the emotional pull and like the mental deductions. Very cool. I like her William Monk novels the best. I haven't found them in order, so I've kind of spoiled myself, but I'll go back and enjoy them anyway. So that's the next one. Going back, solid 4 stars. Then we go from historical mystery to historical romance. This is the second in Mimi Matthews' Bells of London series. That's what it's called. And she had The Orphans of Devon as a series, and I think I've read 3 of those 4. So her talent is basically for latching on to a gang of characters that weave into each other's lives and telling you the story chronologically, I guess, but like their love stories one by one. So Parish Orphans of Devon, that's right, Parish Orphans, was lovely and just like so sweet and so romantic, and the angst and the love stories are great. But she also does a very good job of historical detail. So these are mid 19th century, I think 1860s for the Parish Orphans, and I think this is earlier 1850s about. And if you're curious how she knows all these historical details, or you're skeptical, she has an amazing blog with lots of resources about Victorian and Regency costumes, manners, habits, history, all that kind of stuff. So I would look for Mimi Matthews' blog. But this book, The Belle of Belgrave Square, is the second in the series. The Siren of Sussex was the first. It was great. This one is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it deals with the Crimean War and a hero, veteran of the Crimean War, and like how terrible that is for him. But also she has social anxiety. So there's a few like content warnings or niche character traits that you may be interested in hearing about and are delicately treated in this. I thought really well. I'm not either of those audiences, populations, but I thought she did a really great job. So yeah, definitely encourage you to visit Mimi Matthews, both for her nonfiction and her lovely love stories. So that's that. 1, 2, 3, and I'll do one more before taking a little mid-break. That is another author who I've read a lot of, Grace Burrows, and this is her romance and mystery historical series from Lady Violet. This is the last one Lady Violet says I do. So again, I'll have to go back and read the ones that I missed because I have holes in my series. But Grace Burrows is a lovely writer of historical romance and mystery. So it's basically like domestic house mysteries. And in this one, she's just had a baby. She's newly married. So there's like the marriage to navigate because it's a little strange how it came about. And then they go to this house party and things are messed up afoot and you have to figure out why. I think it's very similar to another book that she's already written in this series, which is kind of odd, but still enjoyable. Different characters and different situation in her life, and so like different factors were in play, which was always good. I'm sad that it's the last of the series because I really like Lady Violet, but I'll go back and find the ones that I missed in between, and I'm sure that will be very satisfying. So, historical, romance, and mystery all in one from the lovely Grace Burrows. And then take a pause on this to show you. Oh, like the stream, subscribe to the channel if you're new here and you love historical, you love romance, you love mystery, you love cookbooks, although I don't do those very often, just a few times a year. Nonfiction, research, and all that jazz. So, oh, the other thing I was going to do was encourage people to be a volunteer. So, Shannon is off traveling for a conference, but my lovely partner in crime, I can't really say that because it's not a crime to put on a free virtual conference for other authors, but Shannon's traveling and she would love me to put this up. We are still under quota for having an easy time of matching up speakers and moderators. So as with any conference, it's really helpful to have someone who's moderating the audience or the tech or the chatter. And so that's what we're looking for. We'd love to have more people. It's about a 2-hour commitment. You get an hour for training. It's much less, but I'm holding an hour for anyone to drop in. And then you get some emails to coordinate with your speaker or speakers if you want to do more than one session. And then you hang out in the chat and make sure no bots come in to disturb the peace, and put some of the links for the speaker in the chat to give resources to the audience to enhance their experience and just make the AWC a more engaged and fun place to be. So that's the last weekend in June 28th, 29th, and 30th. The virtual conference will be taking place all on YouTube, and you can check out the schedule if you're curious about who you might get to moderate for. And again, it's just sign up for one session. You'll be helping us spread out the load. And if you want to get in contact, you can either send an email to authortubewritingconference@gmail.com or visit the website, which is authortubewritingconference.com, and check out the schedule there, or check out this very clear bit.ly link, AWC Vol Call 2024, to get in. This is our last call for volunteers, and we especially need chat moderators, so that would be appreciated. Okay, back to the books. So next up, we've got nonfiction. So this has been inspiring me for the past week and a half. I got this at the library. I'm not sure why I picked it up. Obviously, it was the Gleam, if Mark Cecil is watching. It was like angelic light that pointed out something I needed, apparently. This is called Decluttering at the Speed of Life, Winning Your Never-Ending Battle with Stuff by Dana K. White. And I haven't read her before, but she makes a lot of references to her earlier books. She does both organizing as well as decluttering and emphasizes that there's a difference between the two. Like moving stuff around and actually getting stuff out of your house. So there is a clear difference, and decluttering is getting stuff out of your house, which I've been doing pretty well on. So, and Mom has too. She was telling me in the comments last time. So it's just a revisit. It's a library book, but I did turn down Corners, and it's both this is what works for her in terms of motivation and systematizing the things, as well as this is some of the sensitive emotions to be aware of when you're decluttering. So plan for them. You're gonna hold on to this, or this much is gonna slow you down and then make you weary and your brain shut off. And just very helpful. So I've done very well after reading this, and I thought what's different about this than any other declutter books that I've read is that there's a section in the back about helping other people declutter, whether you're called in to help or offering your help and how to handle that, because it would be helpful, but again, there are sensitive things to work around and be aware of. And both for the person who's inviting someone in, how do you be a responsible friend, and the person who's being invited in, how do you be a sensitive helper? So I thought that was really good. In case you're wondering, check it out if it's in your library, or get yourself a copy if it's going to be a longer term affair. Hint, hint. The next nonfiction is actually a partial read. So in Storygraph, I had this listed as a did not finish because I didn't read the whole thing, but I read what I needed to because it's chronological and it's about my my current work in progress. This book is called The Sassoons, The Great Global Merchants and the Making of an Empire by Joseph Sassoon. So if you've been around, a few months ago, before my trip, no, just after my trip, I picked up a book by, oh, and now I'm going to blank out on his name, Mr. something contract, Atkinson, Mr. Atkinson's Rum Contract. And it was a descendant of a family who had done very well out of government contracts and slavery. And so it was talking about rum contracts and the army and the Caribbean and the British Empire. And that was really fascinating. And so I thought, ooh, this is a similar thing. I don't know how I found this, but I think key point is that I'm looking for another sort of family empire that got set up. You know, we know about the Rothschilds, but this is a similar family. It's another Jewish family, but Iraqi Jewish. So just like the cookbook that I read, which I thought was funny. But yeah, so they went to the East. They established a base in Britain, but they sent some of the sons out to manage the empire in India and in China because they saw where like the global commodities market was going. So they had like their fingers in all the British Empire pies. And since they went east and slavery was not a British Empire concern in China and well, in India, I mean, that's a whole other discussion, but not as we know it in America. They were talking a lot about different topics, especially banking and how banking evolved. So I read the first part, which is about the formation, discrimination against the Jews in these countries in the early 19th century, another wave basically, and how that affected the family's plans and how they built up their empire. And they didn't do banking, but they did trading. And so the way they had contacts throughout the world in a time before global communications as we know them were a thing, I thought it was going to be pretty useful. So the Sassoons, and I thought that was pretty interesting reading, although I didn't continue, so you know it wasn't like that gripping. But yeah, just another way to say I'm excited. It's helpful in the work in progress, and like every little bit of progress is helping. Audiobook, ebook. Okay, so we've got two more, and we're returning to the historical side of things. All of these historical books were lovely to escape into the last couple weeks, and I was feeling pretty mopey. And this one, let's see if it's in Kobo or Kindle. There's only one that was disappointing, and I'll do that one last. It's on Kindle. Okay. Hey, Anita. Popping in after the Go Indie Now live stream. Oh, that's right. When I moved up, I guess I'm overlapping with them. Gotcha. No, apparently it's not on Kindle. Where is it? There it is. Finished. I don't know why it wouldn't show up. Up, and it's going to go away. So, okay. Anyway, let's see if it stays up there. It's called The Trouble with Dukes by Grace Burrows. So this is an ebook of hers I got. I'm on her newsletter list. So when it was on sale, she blasted us with the sale promotion. And I've read the last in the series first. So it's another one of these. There's an ensemble cast, and you get to check in with each character's different love story. So this is one that happened earlier than the book I read, but it's not really spoiling anything because you don't get to know how they got together, and that's the beginning of the love story is really the interest. So I really enjoyed The Trouble with Dukes. Once you suspend your disbelief about there being so many dukes and them coming from all corners of the world and all different living situations to become dukes, like, then you're okay. So Grace Burrows, like I said, less attached to historical detail than Mimi Matthews, but it's still enjoyable and still very connected to the emotional motivations and angst and the not miscommunication tropes, but like dips and very good plots engineered to keep you turning pages and wondering what will happen. So, and there's a happy ending because it's a romance, so that's great. Solid 4 stars. And the final one, you will notice that I've got an audiobook, an ebook, a research book. I've got like all my things hit for the month, so my diversity checklist, the goals is going pretty well. Okay, this is the only like slightly disappointing one. It's called Highlander for Hannah, and I read this because Leslie was reading it. I was late for her like read along, but I got it from the library and decided to read it anyway. It's by Mary Warren. It's a contemporary romance set in New England, but involving a handsome Highlander who comes forward in history after she like casts this spell. So historical fantasy, no, contemporary supernatural, I guess. And when I read contemporary romance, I'm pretty much looking for witty dialogue and a woman who's like dealing with her own issues that's inspiring, and a guy who like has dealt with his own issues and so is appealing, and also like chemistry and humor and like fun supporting characters. So with this, there were like family issues that were not my usual fun go-to conflict. And what else is just like lacking? I turned down corners for like historical things because if he's coming forward in the future, okay, we got a little bit of his dislocation when he was like, a woman shouldn't be wearing that, but he adjusts very quickly and is still protective, but it just seemed too easy, and his language is too contemporary. So that like she didn't follow through with it. So it was a pretty good story, and I liked, where it ended up, and the right people succeeded, and things were resolved with the family, but not the favorite. But that's contemporary romance for you. I'm hard to please when it comes to that. Leslie says, thanks for reading, even if it was disappointing. It's like 3 stars, right? So it's like a solid story, just like those buttons that I really need for a contemporary romance didn't get pushed. So fair enough. If you want to listen to a buddy read discussion, I think Leslie has that up when she buddy read it with someone 2 months ago, because I just listened to her latest buddy read with Sam, and that was really fun. So yeah. Those are my 8 books. If you've read any of those or are interested, let me know. And if you're reading any of my current reads, which this is the most likely one, I guess, because it's just a new release, then let me know about that. Final announcement is my QOTD. So this question, I didn't get any answers in the chat. So quick, everybody, put in their Latine book they're excited about for this year. So we all have a happy Cinco de Mayo. And I'm going to just show mine. It's this beautiful cover by Isabel Ibanez, who I believe came out with a very new book that is very popular. But I have her like earlier one. It's called Woven in Moonlight, Seize the Night. And I'll give you a taste. Excited to read about this later. Magic, romance, and revolution, drawing inspiration from Bolivian politics and history. Catnip. Ximena is the decoy condesa, a stand-in for the last remaining Illustrian royal. Her people lost everything when the usurper, Atok, used an ancient relic to summon ghosts and drive the Illustrians from La Ciudad. Now, Ximena is motivated by her insatiable thirst for revenge and her rare ability to spin thread from moonlight. When Atok demands the real Condesa's hand in marriage, it's Ximena's duty to go in her stead. She relishes the chance, as Illustrian spies have reported that Atok's no longer carrying his deadly relic. If Ximena can find it, she can return the true aristocrata to their rightful place. She hunts for the relic using her weaving ability to hide messages in tapestries for the resistance. But when a masked vigilante, a warm-hearted princessa, and a thoughtful healer challenge Ximena, her mission becomes more complicated. There could be a way to overthrow the usurper without starting another war, but only if Ximena turns her back on revenge and her condesa. So, it's got lots of elements going on, and I'm here for like a supernatural. It's listed as YA, but I think, there's enough there to keep adults occupied and entertained and compelled, if you will. So that is my book. Let's see. If you're watching this on the replay, feel free to list yours in the comments, and you've got time to think about it, because while it is Cinco de Mayo today, the readathon for Latinx reads is September. So June, July, August, September. You got 4 months. So get some recs in there. Yeah, it is a beautiful cover. And finally, the next thing that I have up is a solo travel discussion. So when I came back from my trip to the UK at the end of February, I had a audience member, Angie, ask about traveling solo. And so I've been putting out feelers trying to ask folks on my Twitter, on my Instagram, what is it that prevents you from traveling solo? And I've gotten some answers. If you've got specific answers, please list those in the comments, because I want to respond to this and see if I can help anyone feel better about, getting out there and enjoying a trip, even if they don't have someone to go with them. So some of the answers that I got were just like fear, and I can't really just address fear in general. So let me know if you've got any more specifics, and I'll try to make it an entertaining discussion with folks in the chat. Leslie says, I'll be reading Olga Dies Dreaming by Xochitl Gonzalez at some point this year. Yay. That's another pretty cover, I think. I think that was like a couple years ago. That looked really good. Yay. Okay, well, I hope everyone has a wonderful, safe day. I'm going to close this up. Wish you happy reading. See you on Wednesday, and I'm off for a Booktuber meetup. So, lucky me. Okay. Bye, everybody.